Well, hello friends. Welcome back to browser hacking. Today we are going to look at starting to build out a basic shadow DOM support in our web layout engine. So one of the things that regressed when we moved to a multi-process browser is that we no longer support text input fields. So if you go to google.com, for example, we no longer have a way to type in a search query. And this happened because in the single process world, our browser was simply able to put any GUI widget on top of the web view and then just move it along with the view as you scroll up and down. But now that we have a multi-process architecture for the browser, we can't use GUI widgets in the web rendering engine. So we're going to have to implement the input box as like a combination of web elements instead. And for that, we're going to use the shadow DOM technique. So actually, let me just bring up HTML editor here. So if we make something here like a submit button, that will obviously work fine. But if we switch that to text, then we no longer render anything because we have simply turned off our ability to do this. So this is going to take a bunch of work to build this out, but essentially what we want to achieve is for this to generate sort of a DOM that looks like this. So here we would have like a shadow root, which is an invisible part of the DOM, and then inside of here we put like a frame, which would be sort of a native text box looking frame, and inside of that we would have a like a DOM text node, and this is the thing you would edit, and then this thing would provide like the visual appearance of a text box frame around the text. But essentially, this is going to be all DOM stuff, right? Like, so web items. It's just that they will be internal in the web engine, so you can't access them from script. I think we will hide them. So let's just see. So we don't really have a lot of support for this kind of thing yet, but I think Luke added like a basic shadow root class, but it doesn't really do anything other than participate in some little aspect of spec compliant event delivery. But we don't actually build a layout tree for shadow roots, for example. So let's see how we would do this. So in the HTML input element, when we are told to create a layout node, then currently we have a comment here that says that we should implement input type text in terms of libweb primitives. So that's what we are starting today. And really, like, the fallback path in input element is, like, if we don't recognize the type that you're asking for, then we'll just make a text box, so we don't need to check for type text. So here we want to create, I guess, some kind of just a placeholder renderer for now. So like we'll make a block box, something like that. And you'll notice that I am using a new IDE today. I've just been learning CLion for the last couple of days. Hopefully I am good enough at it that we can move forward at a decent pace. Okay, so now we will always just construct a block box for input elements. But we need to actually produce a shadow DOM that we can insert into that block box. So we will override the attribute parsing code here. So parse attribute. that. Okay. And then if name is HTML attribute names type, then so let's see. Let's say if the type is text. For now. This is probably not the bestest way to do this, but we'll start with something like this. So just remember to call the base. Okay, so if value is text, then we will create a shadow tree. So shadow root will be I think we need to include that probably. Okay, and then let's just put a text node inside of it. Okay. And what do I need to provide here? I guess, oh, the initial text maybe, so something like that will be fine. Okay. And then we will say set shadow root, move shadow root. Okay, and set shadow root doesn't exist yet, so we have to create that. But basically every DOM element can have a shadow root, which in my mind at least sort of conceptually lives before the children in the hierarchy. So like if an element has a shadow root, then when you want to lay out and render it, you would sort of, first you do the shadow tree, if there is one, and then you do the children. And I'm sure that's described in some spec somewhere, but I'm just gonna roll with that for now. And then we can always adjust it later. So element has shadow. No, where is shadow root then? Shadow root. Oh, I guess element doesn't have a shadow root. Okay, well, we'll just add one. I thought it did. So we'll start with something like this. And of course a set shadow root for the thing that we want to do right now. And we're probably going to be introducing a reference cycle here, but we'll just ignore that for the time being. And that's just something that we will have to fix up later. Shadow root, where do I want to go? Here. DOM, just adding shadow root to the forwarding header here. Okay, let's see if this text should be a bit bigger maybe. Okay. I don't know. Sea Lion complains about various things. I'm still kind of getting used to it, but so far so good. We'll see. So set shadow root. Can I maybe change the font size so it's consistent everywhere? set 18. Yeah, because I feel like whenever I switch the file, it changes the font size, and I want it to be the same everywhere. Is that not a thing? Anyway, we will push forward. So if m shadow root is shadow root, of course that's a no op. Otherwise, we'll take that shadow root. Thank you very much, and I guess invalidate our style so that we get recomputed. Cool. So that gives us enough for an input element that has attribute type equals text to generate and insert a shadow DOM tree. So we'll put something here like hello to see if this works. Okay, that didn't quite compile, but nothing we can't fix. So I think that this would probably just compile, but it's obviously not going to do anything because none of the code that produces a layout tree knows that it needs to go and traverse the shadow subtree. So we still have to teach it about that. That would be in tree builder. And you know what? Let's make a little test file here. Input. Yeah, maybe we'll just do something like this. Now that's a fancy document if I ever saw one. Okay. So just to verify that my HTML skills are still good, we are still good. Okay. So let's make that the default file for the browser also. Input. Okay, so we open that up and we dump the DOM tree, and this is what our DOM tree looks like. Nothing exciting. And the layout tree, also nothing exciting. We just have a basic block box for the input element, but we don't yet traverse into this new DOM tree that we created, the new shadow DOM tree. So let's teach the layout tree builder how to do that. So when we build a layout tree, we now need to not only traverse all the children of the DOM node, but also its shadow root. So that would be here in tree builder create layout tree, which constructs the subtree for a given DOM node, the corresponding layout subtree. So how about we just get the shadow root first, if there is one. So at this point, we're operating on DOM nodes, so they may or may not be elements, right? So we first have to check if it is a DOM element. Then we will grab the shadow root, otherwise null. Okay. So then if we have children, or if there is a shadow root at this particular point in the DOM, then we will traverse it. So create layout tree for the shadow root. So oh, I didn't include that, so we can't see what it is. Right. What's that? Oh, that's probably some bug. Right, so you'll see here what we're doing is this is recursive, right? So when we create the layout tree, we start at the root of the DOM, and then we traverse recursively. And for anybody who doesn't have like display none in the CSS, we produce a corresponding layout tree for that DOM node. And there's not quite a one-to-one mapping, but it's roughly like that. So roughly speaking, there's a layout node for every DOM node, but there can also be multiple layout nodes for a single DOM node if it produces multiple boxes for some reason, like list elements and stuff like that. So here, this is where we recurse into the children, but we will now also recurse into the shadow root if we are currently processing a DOM element that has a shadow root. So that part is good. And then let's make the dump code actually print out shadow roots. So dump tree DOM node, probably maybe here actually. So like if this DOM element, and downcast DOM element node shadow root. If so, dump tree shadow root. And maybe you don't like that because you don't know what a shadow root is once again. Okay. So that part should be good. Let's see how that comes out. If we just do this, dump DOM. Okay, so now our input type text here has a document fragment underneath it. Presumably shadow root inherits from document fragment, right? So we're probably seeing this output right here. So it's just, we need to override the node name implementation for shadow root, which is easy enough. So I think we'll just say shadow root like that. And then we're not really seeing anything inside of that thing though. Oh, yeah, because I'm not actually adding the text node to the shadow root. Okay, so shadow root append child, move text node. Okay, so now the text node moves into the shadow root, and we should hopefully see it in the DOM dump. Yes, okay, so the input element now has a shadow root attached, and it has a single text node inside of it with the text hello. Great. So now the next step is to actually make this produce layout tree, because that's not working. So we have the block box here for the input element, but we had not traversed inside of it. We didn't actually go inside it and produce layout nodes for the shadow root and its child. So what's up with that? That would be in tree builder. We need to. So I feel like here we are calling create layout tree on the shadow root. Well, let's just double check that we are creating layout tree for shadow root. Yeah, we are. Okay, so that part is good. We are creating the layout tree, but presumably we're exiting early. If the parent doesn't have a layout node, we don't need one either. Right, so when we're traversing the DOM, if you go into an element that is display none in CSS, then none of its children are going to be visible either, right? So we take advantage of that fact here and just skip over subtrees where any parent decided not to produce a layout node. But in this case, though, it's not our parent, but rather our shadow host, because the shadow root, while it is attached to the input element, the input element is not the parent of the shadow root. The shadow root has no parent. It's like a freestanding DOM subtree in that sense. I mean, it's still attached to the DOM via the shadow mechanism, but it doesn't participate in that parent chain. So we need something here like parent or shadow host, like this. Yeah, and then how does that work? I guess we'll just add it somewhere. So parent or shadow host. And oopsie doopsie, parent or shadow host. And I don't want to write this out twice, so I'm just going to do this. Oh, and we are not a parent node, we are a node. All right. So let's implement this function. So what does it do? If we have a shadow host, then we should return it. Or if we don't have a parent. If we have a parent, return parent. Yeah, otherwise return m shadow host. So we need to store our shadow host somewhere. Also, our parent will always be a parent node, but C++ doesn't quite know that. So we can cast it. Okay. So now we just need to store the shadow host with the node. So let's see, shadow, wait, the shadow host. Wait, I'm not thinking about this right. Only the shadow root has a shadow host. Every node doesn't have a shadow host. So what we'll do here is we'll say if I am a shadow root, then return downcast shadow root this host. Otherwise return parent. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah. Because I was thinking we needed to store the shadow host on the node, but every node doesn't have a shadow host like that, so that would get weird. This makes more sense. Okay, so now we have sort of a way to express parent-child relationships in the layout world, in the layout view of the DOM, because the layout view of the DOM also takes the shadow chain into account. And let's see if this was the thing holding us back. There's probably a billion places that we need to take the shadow host into account, but we're just going to be starting today by sort of making this draw on screen at all. And see if we can get some like basic text editing going. We're not going to be able to do like a full proper text box implementation, but we can do something. So dump layout tree, input, still no shadow tree here. All right. So create layout tree. Oh, wait. So in the DOM, our DOM has that shadow root node, and the shadow root node does not produce a layout node, right? So essentially we are here, we create a block box, and then we're here, we don't create anything, but we do recursion to the children. But once we get here, we notice that, hey, our parent, the shadow root, does not have a layout node. So we don't need to proceed. So the shadow root itself sort of must produce a layout node at this point, or none of its children will. So let's just make like a dummy node for this guy. So we just make it output a block box, and then we can think about this more later if this is the right strategy. But I think just for now, just so that the general mechanism continues working, shadow root, new layout block box, document this, and some whatever style. Wait, what is the thing? Computed values? Yeah. Loop box. Okay. All right. We can see the text hello. And if we look at the DOM and the layout tree, so our DOM looks good, and our layout tree now is a bit more interesting. So we have the block box for the input, and then we're also producing a block box for the shadow root, and then traversing inside of it here, finding that text node, and allowing the text node to produce a line box fragment with the text. So very, very good. Of course, we're not respecting the value attribute here. It's probably something we could be doing. Input element. So the initial text here would be like attribute something like that. Initial value, let's say auto initial value. If initial value is null, then initial value is string empty. Yeah, just the empty string. Okay, so this should make the text box, I should make it say okay instead of hello. And that didn't work. Why did that not work? Oh wait, is this before parse attribute is called? Oh, it's before we have the other attribute. So it depends on the attribute order. That's stupid. We shouldn't do that. Also, I feel like we probably shouldn't do this as part of attribute parsing. Rather, at the time where we decide to create a layout node, like this is the part where we would maybe create the shadow tree. So let's instead move this out to like, or not a virtual, but create shadow tree if needed. create shadow tree if needed. That's a pretty good name. Okay, and maybe we don't need this function at all. I need to, yeah, because parse attribute is called once for each attribute, but if your HTML looks like this, right? Then we will parse this attribute before we've even seen this one. So if you ask what the value attribute says when you are parsing this one, then you just get nothing. So that's not super great. So you really can't like depend on other attributes while you're parsing one. So let's just do away with this problem by making this thing instead. Auto type is attribute type if type is null. I mean, at this point, let's just assume that what we're doing is a text box. Fix me. This assumes that we want a text box. Is that always true? Might not be, but that simplifies what we want to do right now. So shadow tree if needed, we said, right? So if we already have a shadow tree or shadow root, then just return, because then it's not needed. Okay, and then now this will totally work because this is called long after we've parsed all the attributes, so we'll have the value attribute. Okay, cool. And we can actually select text here. That works. Just looking at the cursors, very pretty. Although we should have an I-beam cursor here, but that's kind of a different problem. I'm not going to deal with that right now. But yeah, so here's our thing. It kind of works. Very, very nice. So next step is that we want to be able to edit this text. So we need to make it editable. And the browser determines if something is editable by looking at the nodes is editable flag. So this is something, if this returns true, then you're allowed to put the text cursor inside of this node and type to edit it. Something we have spent some time on earlier, so this will pay off now, hopefully a little bit. So I think, who overrides this? Okay, I'm still not super proficient in like finding things like that. So HTML element overrides it, and looked like document overrides it. So how about, because on HTML element you have the content editable attribute, but we don't really want to mess with like putting a content editable attribute on the input element. We just want to say this text node inside of the input element shadow tree is just always editable. So how about we just add a little hack flag to the text node, something like always editable, and then we can do here virtual bool is editable. Always editable, or parent class is editable. So something like that. I think that might work. Oh, and we need a way to also set it. So set editable, set always editable. And then we can simply set that little flag when we create our secret shadow DOM here. So text node set always editable, true. Yeah, there might be a nicer way of doing this. I don't know. Maybe once we wrap the text node in a frame somehow, then we could set content editable on that frame. I don't know, but this is okay for now, I think. Yeah, so now we can place a cursor here and typey, typey, typey. Pretty cool. Tap, 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 tap. So we have the foundations of an input element. How about we put like a little CSS in the default style sheet here just to spruce it up. Maybe give it a border. So border 1px solid black. I don't know. Min height. Yeah, I mean now we're just messing with some defaults here, but we'll just set something up so that we can see it. Oh, look at him. Oh, it's right, because we made it a block. That's a little bit awkward. So input elements should not be blocks, right? If you put two next to each other, they're not block level. I think. Right, so they are sort of inline block behavior. So let's just do that for the input element. Oh, maybe we can do that here actually in display. Inline block. Oh wow, this has CSS code completion. I'm not used to that. Okay, that was not the right place to do this. So, wait. Where do we do this? So the shadow tree is here. Oh, but we still need to tell it that it's inline. So layout node is this. Layout node is set inline true. Yeah, that's a little awkward, but this is not a permanent solution. It's just to make it an inline block. Yeah, so that's a little bit nicer. And you can't see the text cursor when it's at the end. So these little things need fixing. Oh, and space totally does not work. This thing needs to have like as white space pre mode, or yeah, I guess it does need to have that. So how do we get white space pre into it? Just like this? No? Wait. Am I even thinking of the right thing? White space pre. Yeah, that's what we do for the pre thing. So I think pre is right, but oh, but the style is not getting inherited properly. And I guess we kind of don't want the style to be inherited anyway, because that's sort of supposed to be a boundary here anyway, right? So maybe we can just hack this by setting something. Wait, where did we do this? Oh, This is a tricky problem. So I guess now we need to put some kind of element in between the shadow root and the DOM text nodes, just so that we can have CSS applied to something. So frame, we'll call it like element is adopt new DOM element document. I think kind of element are we going to put in there? Create element HTML attribute names div maybe? Oh, that's not an attribute name, it's a tag name. Make a div, put that in there. Yeah, okay, let's try it. Element, append child, move, text node. Okay, so how do we make this thing have style? Well, we set an attribute on it. Attribute names, style, and we'll use inline style. So white space pre. Aha. This is kind of an interesting solution. Of course, now our kernel crashes on boot, but probably not related to that. Oh, look at that, it worked. Oh, that's so neat. So now we have, if we look at our DOM tree, not inspect because that's broken since we switched to multiprocess, but dump DOM tree. So now our shadow root has a div style whitespace pre inside of it. That's really cool. So this style actually applies to this text. And there's probably all these little details about how, like which aspects of surrounding document style are supposed to apply to the text and so on. But we'll just figure one thing out at a time here. Still, oop, we had a crash. Quite bad one. So I guess, yeah, so there's a bunch of to-do assertions. I think like if you delete all the text here, and it gets empty. That looks kind of funny. And then try to delete more and it will crash. Okay. Yeah, so there are a bunch of issues here. Obviously, this is not super stable or anything, but it is a step forward. So what is the next thing? I guess we'll want to be able to read the value of this thing from JavaScript, right? So if our test page had a second thing, like an input type submit or whatever, and he had like on wait, what do we have submit events? I don't know. We have submit event. Do we fire them? Submit event create. If you click submit, we will create a submit event. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and make a div. Click me, because now I'm getting a bit confused here, so let's just do something. Document get element by ID X. On mouse down. Let's see if this works, by the way. I implemented that a couple of days ago. I don't know if it'll work. alert document get elements by tag name input 0th dot value. Okay. Undefined. Okay, so input element, does it expose the value attribute? Default value, okay. But input element, does it not have a value getter? Guess I should have checked with Firefox. Yeah, so it shows the current value, and if you actually look at the DOM, then the initial value is still there. So editing the text box does not update the DOM attribute, but the value getter should tell us the text content of the input field. So value a DOM string representing the text contained in the field. Right. So take me to the spec, please. Value. Well, what does it say? If the element is mutable, its value should be editable by the user. Blah, blah, blah. User agents must not allow the users to insert a line feed or carriage return characters. Well, that sounds important. Okay, anyway, so we'll just add a attribute DOM stringus value. I wonder if that's accurate though. Input element. Where's the value here? Legacy null to empty string. Do we have that? Legacy null to empty string. Yes, we do. Okay. Yes. Oh, interesting. I didn't know about these getters or attributes. Okay, so input element. So value right now, we need to change that. So input element IDL, default value should be a separate thing from value. I think we can just do that. And we'll call that default value. And then we'll have string value and void set value. Okay, and then we have to implement those puppers. Okay. So, I mean, this thing here, it's sort of, for a checkbox or a text node, it should do all these different things. So I guess if we have a shadow, or what's the best way to keep track? We should probably keep track of the text node here. So let's say like m text node, we'll stash this somewhere and not move it, rather keep it. And then we'll have a way to access it without doing DOM traversal. Yeah. Okay, and then we can simply do like if m text node, then m text node, set data, move value. If m text node, return m text node data. Otherwise, return default value. So this is probably not super correct for other value types. But we have to start somewhere. So yeah, we'll just fall back to setting the DOM attribute for now. And then we'll need a way to keep sort of the different states for the different input types. But we'll do something like this right now. Okay. Oops. Default value, oh, fine. I thought it would be able to figure this out, but I guess we need to give him a little help. Default value. Because the camel case of the web APIs and the snake case of the Serenity implementation, sometimes you need to help it figure out what's what. Attribute names default value. Oh, wait a tick. Reflect just means to reflect the DOM attribute. It doesn't mean call the getter. So we're good. Cool. So this thing can now actually extract that. That is very nice. And yeah, then, you know, there's all kinds of things that we need to be doing here, like making an event handler so that when you type and you change the text, then we should have an event that shows up handled internally by the input element so it can produce an on change and all kinds of things like that, right? But this here was just a start. So let's see if we've done enough here to make the Google text box show up again. That'd be pretty cool. Even if it'll look silly. No, it's not here. At least I don't see it. Although, let's see, dump layout tree. Do they have an input? That's a button box, block box. Okay, so we have a block box with a shadow tree right here. But it's 0 by 0. So, I don't know. Yeah, I probably need some more messing around to make it show up, but we don't have to get carried away with that right now. Let's just see if we can do some commits here. So, starting with some basics, libweb, add shadow root to forwarding header. And no, not that one. Let's see what we want to do. Not this, not that. Okay, I need to look around in the diff. Set shadow root. That one we can do separately, right? So the element changes. Yeah. Add element. Add a way to give elements DOM element a shadow root. Can now attach a shadow root to your favorite element. Doesn't do anything yet, but you can. Cool. And then let's add the parent or shadow host helper. Add DOM node parent or shadow host. This is useful when you want to traverse upward and traverse upward across shadow boundaries. Yeah, okay. And text, that was adding a way to make text nodes always editable. Add a way to make DOM text make a always editable. This will be useful for internal purposes, for input element purposes. Cool. And then what did we do in shadow root? Oh, right, yeah. So we make shadow roots produce a block box for now. Let's combine that with the tree builder change. libweb. Generate layout tree nodes for layout tree nodes for shadow subtrees. Layout nodes for shadow subtrees. Yeah. Elements with shadow roots will now contribute. Will now recurse into those shadow trees while building the layout tree. This allows us to. This is the first step towards basic shadow DOM support. Yeah, cool. Wait, what was actually changed in this file? Oh, did we just dump shadow trees in the DOM dump? Include shadow subtrees, shadow DOM subtrees, and DOM dumps. Yeah. Okay. And finally, the input element extravaganza. So that's like all the remaining stuff. This is very, very hackish. I think it's almost so hackish I'm going to add a comment about this. Like, fix me. This is a temporary hack till we can render a native looking frame for these. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do the native looking frame, but we'll figure out a way. Probably you can use the CSS appearance property, for example. We'll figure something out. Yeah. Web. Start implementing input type text using libweb using shadow DOM. So text input fields will now generate a basic shadow DOM and attach it to the input element. The shadow DOM is a shadow DOM contains a div with some inline style and an always editable text node cited. accessing the value attribute on such an input element will get set the value from that text node. This is really cool, although not super stable since HTML editing is not super stable, but it's a start. Yeah, it is a start. That's really cool. Oh, we should check that what am I thinking? That we can set the value also. So can we do this with a button instead, like button show value, set value. Oh, we should do this with a thing here, like on mouse down. Tag name. Wow, this is some beautiful HTML right here. Value equal. Oh my goodness. Okay, that works. That works. Okay, that works in Firefox. Let's see if we can handle it. I don't remember if we even support button elements. Not quite, but oh, when you set the value, it didn't automatically re-render. Okay, we gotta fix that. Set value. When you call set data on a text node, then it just sets the data, but it doesn't actually trigger a relayout or anything. I should probably make it do that. So set datum. Of course, if it's a no-op, it's a no-op, right? But otherwise, that's going to be a parent. Or let's see, what do we want to do here? I guess we can do like the most aggressive thing possible. Just schedule a relayout. Yeah, fix me. This is definitely too aggressive. Yeah, so this is definitely something we can optimize. Like, you don't need to relay out the whole page in many situations, right? Also, what on earth? That's a crash, all right. So this doesn't work right at all anymore. Let's go. Oh, okay, I'm stupid. I forgot to actually set the data. Also, how about we just make that a string, and then we can just move it. So far, I have to say, C-Line is very good at like pointing out things that could be moves instead, like right here. So definitely liking the ID so far, but as you can tell, like I'm kind of not completely comfortable with it yet, but just need to do a bunch of grinding, code grinding. Okay, show value. That's that. Set value. Oh my goodness. Okay, okay. Great. libweb. Relayout immediately. Relayout if character data on character data text data change. Yeah. This is this can definitely be optimized to avoid full relayouts in many situations, but for now, let's go for correctness. Yeah. So I think we're good here. That's going to be it for today's video. Button element not supported. Can we maybe do button submit with these guys? I'm just curious if we can support that. Also, why do these have ending divs? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, this is some extremely confusing HTML right here. It's been a while, but it's good to be hacking on the browser stuff again. There's so much we need to do with it. Oh, look at those. Poof. Although it doesn't seem to care about on mouse down so much, and gets a little confused instead. Yeah, all right. A lot of things that need fixing here. But we have the start of an input element text, so I'm happy. And we're going to end the video here for today. So this has been very productive. You know, we've started adding our first shadow root, first user agent shadow root mechanism, and we now traverse shadow roots in layout. So that's awesome. And yeah, that's good progress. So thank you very much for hanging out, and I hope that you saw something interesting. I know that sometimes these browser concepts can get pretty deep pretty quickly, but I think this is quite interesting stuff. So I hope everybody was able to follow along, and I will see you next time, I guess. Bye.